Hello, this is Jim McKeeth, lead developer evangelist and engineer for Embarcadero Technologies, and welcome to this Delphi Developer Skill Sprint for Tuesday, February 23rd, 2016, on using the FireMonkey TImageList effectively. This skill sprint works across all platforms and all languages, but we're going to focus specifically on Delphi today. The TImageList was introduced in XE8. It's really similar to the VCL TImageList, but actually has a number of advanced features which we'll take a look at. One big difference, though, is it holds the multi-resolution bitmaps instead of the single-resolution bitmaps like were used in VCL. The reason for the multi-resolution bitmaps is on multi-device application development. Some devices have different screen densities, and so you need to have different density versions of your bitmap in order to accommodate those different screens and achieve the best images on those screens. It also supports layered images, so you can actually layer multiple images together in order to create the images that are available for use. That is really cool and really cool feature, and I'll show you how that works here in just a second. But generally, fundamentally, what a TImageList does is it is a non-visual component that provides images to other controls. And so other controls like buttons or whatever menu items can reuse these images. So the TImageList simplifies the graphic asset reuse and management. So it makes it easier for you to reuse the same graphic across multiple controls. This prevents duplication of that image within your application, which would cause it to be take up more space, for example. Also, if you need to swap out an image later in the future because you're upgrading to newer graphics, you change it one place and it changes it everywhere. So it provides a number of great benefits for building complex applications where you need to reuse graphics over and over and over again. So let's take a look at TImageList in action. For this sample, I'm going to use the Glyph Effects graphics library that comes with Rad Studio, Delphi, and C++ Builder. It's in the folder C:\program files, x86, Embarcadero Studio 17 images, Glyph FX, and it's as a zip file, so you need to unzip this. I unzipped it in this folder, but you can unzip it anywhere you want to. And in here, there's some great icons that you can use. So I'm using the PNGs, and here they are here. Really nice looking icons. Although I guess now the in style is the flat icons. I still like these arrow looking ones, but there's other flat icon libraries out there as well. But this is what I'm using today. So I've got a multi-device application here. And to get a TImageList, I just go TImageList and put it down on here. So this is the TImageList editor, and it's a little more complex than the one that's with the VCL. So let me show you what we got going on here. We have the sources of images and then the list of images. The list of images is what you use outside of the image list. So these are the images that are available to be reused in other controls. Sources of images are images that you can use to make layers to be used in your image list of images. Now you can just come in here and add a let's see, we'll add a let's go PNG here. So see, I added it down here at the bottom, and it added it in both places. So we automatically have it here, and it created a single layer image that we're using here. But I can also come in here, and we'll say search, and this brings up the multi-resolution image editor here, or multi-resolution bitmap editor. And I can go and let's get search. There we go. Search, and now I can actually have multiple resolutions of this exact one here. So I just come in here and go to 64 and go to search. And so this would be the 2, and this would be the 1. Oops. 1. Oh, I can't duplicate it. So we'll make it 4, and 1, and 2. Okay. So, because this is 256, so it's twice as big as this one, so it's the 2. So that's one thing here is you can have, if you want to have multi-resolution images, you do that from here. So now I can take and make a new layer on here. So let's make a new image down here. And on this one, I want to add a new layer. And I want the layer to be, oops, right here, the search arrow. And we need to specify we want the full image here. So 256, 256, and 256. 6. All right, so hopefully you can see this. This has got the left arrow with the magnifying glass over it. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we did here. Now, the great way to, if you just want to pull an image out of an image list, the best way is to use the glyph, the T-glyph, T-G-L-Y-F. And the fact that it's glyph and glyph effects is a coincidence. You don't have to use glyph effects with the glyph. So let's go ahead and make this guy a little bigger here. And so this one has the images property. So we assign it to the TImageList, and then we want to select which image we want. And we want to use the one I just created. So see, this one's a layered image. I can go and there's the regular one, and then here's the layered image. Okay, so that shows you how you can build a layered image. So we have 2 sources of images here, and then we've built 2 images that we're able to reuse. Now these 2 you don't reuse, you reuse these. And our search button, or search one, is a multi-resolution bitmap. Okay, this one here, it's multi-resolution, but we only specified 1 resolution. Something else you can do here that's kind of interesting is this doesn't have to be the full image. You can actually specify part of it. Actually, let's make this 256. 256. So one thing you can do with these multi-resolution bitmaps is you can actually come in here and you can specify that you don't want to use the full thing. So let's make this the full size, 256. 256. Actually, I could have done that by, say, sized by image as well. But when it's custom size, you can come in here and grab these resizable things here, and we can move it around and let's select part of the image. So see now, it's only selected part of that image. So if you had, for example, sometimes you'll see this, you get one large image that has lots of images within it. You can just come in and select parts of those images out to use in your graphic. And so you can have a single source image here, but then your selected images that you're building out from that could be pieces of that larger image. Hopefully that makes sense. A couple things of note in here. If you want to preview it, that's this button here. And then you can specify the zoom on the preview, which is useful if you're dealing with multi-resolution images or of different densities, screen densities. This button here is kind of interesting. So right now you see it has this path to the image I was using. That's persisted, but when you don't want it persisted anymore, you hit this button here, and that says I'm finished, but then also removes that. So if I go back in here again, we'll see that it's removed that path in there, which is the design time only information. This one applies all changes and closes. This one fill all form from file. So it allows you to grab a file and then it fills all of the up for you. This deletes a image from the multi-resolution image, and this adds a new item. So if you wanted to add, which we already showed you that. Okay, on here, this also clears all the design time information, so this clears it everywhere. Here we can reorder these guys here, which isn't as big a deal. On the images, though, on the layers, we can actually reorder these layers, which you'll notice now the hourglass is behind it. So if we hit OK, not near as interesting, but you can't see the, I guess, magnifying glass, not hourglass. Let's put that back on top. Here's delete layers, add layers, list of images. So when you're adding images here, you want to If you want to insert it in the middle, you select where you want it to insert. It inserts in the next one. If you want to put it at the end of the list, you hit there, and we hit add. And so add's going to add whatever it was up here, but you can change what this one is by coming over here and saying we want this to be a search one. So now I have search one there. And if we want to add another one, that's what I had selected. So I'll add the arrow. Now we have the arrow. We can delete this one here. Like so. If you do get confused, you go in here to the help. It actually will bring you right to the DocWiki page. Well, the help page based on the DocWiki page, which I will link to, that shows you how to use all of this. It actually includes a little video as well. So this exports a list of images into a file. So we'll give this a shot here. Test. And if I go into Explorer, Pictures. So this created a composite image for me here that has all of my images in it. So if you've gone through and created them, all of them, you could just export this out, re-import this back in, and then use the sub-image selection, like I showed you earlier, to just select the part that you want. That's especially useful if you, for example, have layered some images and you want to be able to reuse those in other apps without having to recreate the layering. Now, if you want to access the items from an image list in code, put down an image here, then I'll show you what you do here. You come in here, and so, for example, this image doesn't have an images property. Okay, so you can't assign it to an image list and pull images from there. That's why you want to use the glyph if you just want to pull the images out. But from code, we can come in here and say image1.bitmap.assign, and then we need to get the source. And so the source is going to be our ImageList1.bitmap. And so bitmap is going to let us pull the bitmap out. We need to give it the size. So this resizes the image we're pulling out of the image list to the size we want. And so I'm going to tell it I want it to be the size of image1.size, and that's a control size. Now it's a size record that I want, and then we tell it the image index. So I'm going to go image 0. Let's now run this and see it's pulled out image 0 there. Let's go ahead and go with image 1 because I messed with image 0. There we go. It pulled it out for us. So that's all there is to pulling out images in code. Most of the time, though, you're going to be using image lists for, like, for example, buttons. And we'll go down to the button. It has a images property. Set that. Come in here and select the image we want on the button. And now our button has a search glyph on it. A number of controls have the ability to do this. Just a matter of assigning it to the image list and then assigning the index. Typically, you're probably going to want to put your image lists on a data module, though. Add new data module. Let's take this guy. Cut. Paste. Use unit. And then we can come in here and select them from the data module. Like so. And that way you can maximize your imagery use across multiple forms with image lists. For more information, there's a great DocWiki page on using TImageList available to you right there. Also, great information on using the image list editor, and that actually has a video that walks you through some of the features as well. And then the sample, TImageList sample app, both in C++ and Delphi is available there. And if you want to read the documentation on the component itself, check out the library reference. Give me a brief moment to tell you about this limited time special offer. All 10 Seattle registered users get the bonus pack, which includes the new Object Pascal Handbook by Marco Cantu. This essential language reference is a modern language guide that includes new features of the language and the core runtime library, a must-have for any Delphi developer. Also get the Binder Converter Basic. It handles the heavy lifting when converting existing VCL applications into FireMonkey applications, so you can start taking advantage of multi-device development right away. And the Premium Style Pack includes premium styles for VCL and FireMonkey to make your application look great on every platform. For more information on these special offers, or to find out what the current offers are, please visit www.embarcadero.com/radoffer. And one more special offer we have only for the month of February is if you buy one tool, you get another tool for free. And it's a tool of equal or lesser price. The website says value, but sometimes you feel like you're getting better value on the free tool. It feels like sometimes, at least for me. So if you buy Rad Studio, Delphi, or C++ Builder 10 Seattle, either new user or upgrade, Professional Enterprise Ultimate Architect, you can get any of those tools you see there. For example, Konopka Signature VCL controls, CodeSite Studio 5, Interbase, or a number of the other database tools. Full details and instructions are available at the RAD offer page you see down there at the bottom. So check that out. If you don't have 10 Seattle yet, this is a great time to upgrade to 10 Seattle and take advantage of the special offer. Next time, we have using Apple's Touch ID. So this is going to be an Apple iOS specific skill sprint, but it's going to show us how to take advantage of the Touch ID, which is a little thumbprint scanner, fingerprint scanner built into the home button on iPhones and iPads, and how to use that from your Delphi and C++ Builder applications. It'll be available on Delphi versions on Tuesday, the 1st of March, and C++ version is on Thursday, the 3rd of March. So be sure you join us for that. Tell your friends to be there. And now it's time for Q&A.
So there's a few questions in here. First one is, why using multi-resolution bitmaps? Why not only use the highest resolution image and let Delphi do the downscaling? You can certainly do that, and that is an option, and Delphi will downscale. It will find the closest one. So if you have just one image, it will scale it up and scale it down as necessary. If you have a couple images, it'll find the closest one and scale it. But the reason we support multi-resolution bitmaps is because sometimes when the scaling is extreme enough, it's better to have a manually simplified image. So, for example, let's say in the big image you have some text. In the high density image you have text. In the low density image, there's not enough pixels for that text to be legible, and so it just becomes this garble. It might make sense to remove that text and replace it with just a single letter, for example, instead of a full word, or something along those lines. Or maybe remove the text altogether so it doesn't just become this garbled mess. I actually worked for a company, and they had a rule about the logo, how small the logo can be, because if it went smaller than that, the letters started to munch together and it started to look like it was spelling other words. So it really actually can be quite important that you have the ability to have multi-resolution bitmaps. So yeah, that's why. Question here, we wish there was a place on the outside the form to place non-visual controls. That's the purpose of the TData module. You can have some. I usually find that I put most of my non-visual controls on the data module, and that way they're accessible from other places. There's usually occasionally a couple of them that do remain on the form themselves, but 10 Seattle actually has the ability to hide those with Control H, or there's a button for it that'll hide your non-visual controls, and that makes it a lot easier so they're out of your way to deal, so you don't have to deal with them. So there's a couple options there.
Yeah, the TData module's a misnomer, right, Jim, in the sense that it doesn't have to have data base type elements in it. You put TimageList in there, for example. You can put any non-visual control in there and then use that unit, and then you've got the same effect. But yeah, Control H is new in 10 Seattle, or click the button that's over on the toolbar in the IDE to toggle hiding non-visual controls on and off. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you create a frame as well and put non-visual controls in a frame somewhere and use it or don't use it?
Yep. Actually, Kerry Jensen had a great tip on using frames for your live bindings. And so he's saying, if you have like a really complex form, if you put with a lot of live bindings on it, it can be kind of hard to manage, even with the layers and live bindings. But if you put break things up into frames, then it makes it easier to manage it because you only have to manage a smaller part at a time. So yeah, that's a great option as well. Well, that's right. I was going to say that if you do use like Control H to hide the non-visual controls, then you can access those controls from the structure panel over on the side. So, which is really useful because then you can see all the controls in the structure panel and go there and select the non-visual components to select them even if they're hidden on the main form. That's what I was going to say. And David pointed out that apparently I had a math fail when I said that 256 was 2 times 64, which is not correct. 256 is 2 times 128, so it's 4 times 64. Is there any built-in support for images for tray on different Windows versions in ImageList? Oh, for the tray icon. Oh, for the different Windows versions? I'm not aware of that.
I'll have to take a look, do some searching. Yeah, there's the T-tray icon component class, but I don't know if it does different things on different. You can change the image yourself. I don't remember anything that was built in.
Are they not 16 pixels on Windows 10?
I'll have to look.
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure. What is the meaning of the width/height property at the bottom of the editing image list dialog? Let's see. Width and height. These width and height are used during add and export commands. See description of these commands. Okay, so when you export, which I showed, creates the composite image. That's the width and height of what you export. Which, yeah. And then add... by default, it shows the name of the specified file. If the size of an image to add is multiple of the specified width and height, a prompt appears asking whether the image list editor should divide the image into several images. This is useful for toolbar bitmaps, which are usually composed of several small images in a sequence and stored as one large bitmap. So that's its purpose. So there's 2 purposes related to the composite images that have multiple images in one image file.
Yeah, a couple other things, Jim. Somebody was asking about the tray icon. That's a VCL, extended control. But there's an article with a link on FMX Express about a tray icon component for at least XE6 FireMonkey. So I'm going to put that in the. There was also a question earlier about the Glyphix, free to use, the Glyphix.
Oh, yeah.
Image.
Yep, that's included in your Delphi Rad Studio license. There's some other ones out there that are free to use license packs as well. And I wish I remembered what they were because they had some nice flat icons in them. But if you search around the web, you can find some libraries for that. Yeah, Glyphix. The pack that's included with 10 Seattle is free with your free to use your 10 Seattle license. You can't redistribute the whole pack, but you can use the images within your applications. Glyphix, if you go to the website, they have even more icons, and they probably have some flat icons available out there too now. But you'd have to license those from them, additionally beyond the ones that are included with Rad Studio. So Jens is saying, I don't quite understand the multi-resolution thing. So the way the multi-resolution bitmaps work is at runtime, it will choose the bitmap that best fits. So iOS has the simplest example. It used to be that the iPad, for example, had a resolution of 1024 by 768. Then I can't remember which one iPad it was. At one point, they doubled it to the Retina display. Now everything's Retina display, but at one point they doubled it to Retina display. And they doubled the number of horizontal pixels and the number of vertical pixels. So it had twice as many pixels in there. Now, instead of shrinking everything smaller, instead they made everything take twice as many pixels on the screen. And so this resulted in the text having better being easier to read, the graphics looking better. And so the idea is, instead of trying to squeeze more data on the screen, so for example, instead of when you change your resolution on your desktop at home, you just crank up the resolution, you squeeze more text on the screen. Instead of doing that, they made the text larger so it remained the same relative size on the screen, so that it was easier to read, and the graphics look better. So what that means is that when you use add graphic assets, you need to add them as that higher resolution. Now, the reason you want to have both resolutions, and on Android has more densities available to it now because iOS, pretty much everything's Retina. But the reason you need to have both resolutions is sometimes if you just take that higher resolution and crunch it down, you'll get strange looks. So for example, let's say you have text on a graphic. Let's say it's like a button and it has the word save written on it. If you crunch that down to half the size or a quarter of the size, the word save is going to get all scrunched together and it's going to be illegible. It's just going to be a little squiggle. And that doesn't look very good. So instead, you just take the word save off and you leave the image of the disk at the lower resolution. And so that's the reason you do it, is so that you can take advantage of the higher resolution and have the more details in there, but then not have to worry about them looking really poor when they get downsized.
And Jim, I put a link to the DocWiki article on using multi-resolution bitmaps, which lists out and says all the things you talked about why multi-res, multi-platform, Android 1, 1.1, 1.33, 1.5, 2, and so on. So you can take a look at that link. It's in the Q&A log to the DocWiki on using multi-resolution bitmaps.
Excellent, yes. So here's a question about iPad Pro icons, because they changed it around again with the iPad Pro.
I think you just have to put the bigger icons in your info plist and deploy. Is that right? Because you're right. If we go into the IDE and go to application, when you have an iOS target, you'll see all those different icons that we predefine or you can load in. But
it may be something that's going to come in Big Ben.
Yeah. In the meantime, I guess it would be to put those high-resolution icons in the right place in the info plist. Is that where it should go, Jim?
I believe so, yes. He says you can edit it manually, but keep getting reset.
Yeah. What you should copy. Well, whenever you want to modify the info plist, I had to do this for iOS 9 for HTTP. There was some special settings that you had to do. You should let the project create your info plist and then copy the info plist from where it creates it, put it into your source directory, and that way, and include that file. Where's my blog? I didn't do it on the icons specifically, but
yeah, it was for the HTTPS workaround that they changed that. I remember that. You just add it to your deployment manager yourself.
Yeah. So let's see.
So you can add all the icons and everything to your deployment manager and just deploy them manually.
Yeah. This was about that iOS app transport security feature, but the same steps for anything you want in the info plist. So, especially when it's something you can't do through project options. So I go through the steps in the case of the transport security, where there wasn't a version info or any setting at the time that 10 Seattle came out. But you can follow the same steps of letting it create a custom info plist, then copying it into a local directory, and then adding it to the deployment list, your own info plist versus the one that's auto-generated out of the build process. Okay.
So here's a question: are there any plans to port the FireMonkey image list to VCL, or at least the layer structure? Not that I know of, but you could certainly submit a feature request to quality.embarcadero.com, and they can consider that in the future. Is it possible to build a composite image like the search back example in code? For example, building images with overlays for use at runtime. I don't know if you could do it. You probably could do it through TImageList. I imagine you'd have to be able to. I haven't looked into that, but I'd imagine you have to be able to. Though you could build it in code just with layering the bitmaps themselves. So there are more than one way to accomplish that, but I'm not sure. Just trying to think at the methods I've looked at on the image list, and I don't remember seeing that. Although there has to be a way, because at runtime it's just using the component. The designer's just using the component, so it has to be available. You just have to look at the code a little bit more. But I don't know how. So one thing is that the image list in VCL is built, if I understand correctly, is built on the image list functionality in Windows. And so there may be some limitations there. And also because of the FireMonkey is built on top of the DirectX and OpenGL, it has a whole lot more flexibility. So yeah, go ahead and suggest that. Hopefully they can find a way to do that, but I'm not sure. There might be some complications in there that I'm not aware of. So
it'd be intriguing to look at the source code for both, because we give you the source code for both VCL image list and FireMonkey image list. So you could go spelunking through those source codes and see what's going on. I don't remember any specific method interfaces, but I mean the code is there, so it should be possible to do that same those same operations in your own code.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Scott had just commented about how useful the layering was. Now he can, instead of having a huge library of icons, he can just have base images and decorate them as needed. Yeah, it's really cool. I didn't actually go into showing you can offset the overlaid image as well. So if you wanted to have the magnifying glass just like over only a part of it instead of over the full thing, you can move it around and stuff like that. So it's very useful what you can do there. That's one thing I love about FireMonkey is there's lots of features that I found in like other graphical editing systems are now right available in the IDE for designing my apps. So it's very cool, very useful stuff there.
Yeah, one of the questions earlier was about this whole multi-resolution bitmap, and there's a just go to the doc wiki. There's a whole beautiful page. Beautiful. It's late. There's a whole page that describes why and how to use these multiple resolution bitmaps, especially with FireMonkey on different devices, where you've got 1 time resolution, 1.5, 2, retina resolutions, all these different resolutions on different platforms. And so having these multi-res bitmaps is very useful. And I think you mentioned, Jim, earlier that FireMonkey tries to pick the right size, right? Or it'll scale it up.
Right, it'll pick the size closest. So if you have, if you've got 1x and 4x in there, and you're running, or 1x, 2x, 4x, or whatever. Anyway, it'll pick whatever size is closest, and then if it can't find one that matches, it'll pick the size that's a little bit bigger, and then scale it down. If it can't find one big enough, then it will scale up the biggest size. So it does a really good job, but your best bet is to try and provide a couple resolutions, maybe the highest resolution and the lowest resolution or something like that. You know, experiment with that and see, and then it will find the best match it can and scale it up as necessary, scale it down as necessary.
And Walter, let's see, Walter put the feature request in, so we'll let the voting begin.
Cool. Excellent.
And I think that's it. Thank you, Jim, for a great skill sprint. Everybody, next Tuesday, it just continues through the end of March. We'll see you along the way, or you can always find the replays once we get a little caught up here on the Embarcadero YouTube channel. And there's a link to the skill sprint playlist off the skill sprint landing page, or just go into the Embarcadero TechNet YouTube channel and you'll see all the different playlists for webinars, for RAD in actions, product releases, skill sprints, and so on. The skill sprints, they're listed in reverse chronological order, so the most recent ones are at the top, and the ones we did, I don't know, 90, I think we have to celebrate, I think, when we get to 100.
We just got to 100.
So like what they do on television, right? They have this 100 episode, 200 episode milestone, so.
Yeah, we
anyway,
actually just did 100 like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, so all those are up there.
Yep.
So we'll keep going, and you can always suggest to us, send us emails, because we'll start, Jim, it'll be March next week after Leap Day on Monday, and it'll be time for us to start creating the skill sprint schedule for April through June and beyond.
Yay.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah. Okay, everyone, so if you have some favorite things you want us to do these quick hits in, send us emails. It's always cool. In any case, or put comments in the community site or whatever. Okay, take care, everyone, and we'll see you again next time.
Bye, everybody.